The yawn discovery. Dr. Elena Reeves stifled a yawn as she peered into her microscope, her eyes straining in the dim light of her laboratory. It was well past midnight, but she couldn't tear herself away from her work. For months, she had been studying the peculiar electromagnetic patterns emitted by the human brain during various states of consciousness. Tonight, something was different. As she adjusted the focus, a flash of vibrant colors danced across her screen. Elena blinked, certain she was hallucinating from exhaustion. But no, the pattern persisted, a dazzling display of neural activity unlike anything she had ever seen before. "What on earth?" she muttered, reaching for her coffee mug only to find it empty. With a sigh, she stood up to stretch, her joints popping in protest. As she did, another yawn escaped her lips. The monitors in her lab suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree. Elena froze, her eyes darting between the screens and her own reflection in the darkened window. Slowly, deliberately, she yawned again. The same burst of activity flooded her instruments. Heart racing, Elena fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed her research partner, Dr. Marcus Chen. "Marcus," she hissed as soon as he picked up, "get to the lab. Now, you're not going to believe this." Across the vast expanse of space, on a planet circling a distant star, another pair of eyes widened in alarm. Zixtal, chief observer of the Galactic Confederation's Earth monitoring station, watched in horror as the sensors designed to track potentially dangerous technologies on the primitive planet suddenly spiked off the charts. "By the cosmic core," Zixtal gasped, his 3 hearts beating in rapid succession. "They've done it. The humans have weaponized their neural networks." With trembling tentacles, Zixtal initiated an emergency transmission to the Confederation's High Council. As the holographic figures of the council members flickered to life around him, Zixtal struggled to keep his voice steady. "Esteemed members of the High Council," he began, his voice quavering, "I regret to inform you that the humans have developed a technology that could threaten the very fabric of our galactic society. They have found a way to externalize their neural patterns, creating a form of mind control." The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien languages, each member expressing their shock and disbelief. The head counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering orb, pulsed brightly to silence the others. Observer Zixtal. The counselor's thoughts resonated in the minds of all present. "Are you certain of this? The implications are staggering." Zixtal nodded solemnly, his eye stalks drooping. "I have triple-checked the readings, High Counselor. There can be no doubt. The humans have unlocked a power that could enslave entire civilizations with a mere thought." As the Galactic Confederation grappled with this shocking revelation, back on Earth, Elena and Marcus were oblivious to the interstellar panic they had inadvertently caused. Marcus burst into the lab, his usually immaculate hair disheveled, and his shirt buttoned incorrectly. "Elena, what's going on? Do you have any idea what time it is?" Elena barely glanced up from her computer, where she was furiously typing notes and running simulations. "Marcus, I think we've stumbled onto something big. Really big." She quickly explained her accidental discovery, demonstrating the yawn-induced neural patterns that lit up their instruments like fireworks. Marcus's skepticism melted away as he witnessed the phenomenon for himself. "This is incredible," he breathed, running a hand through his messy hair. "But what does it mean? What are we actually seeing here?" Elena shook her head, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I'm not entirely sure yet, but I have a theory. These patterns, they're not just random bursts of activity. There's a coherence to them, a structure that suggests, well, it's going to sound crazy." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "After what I've just seen, try me." "I think," Elena said slowly, choosing her words carefully, "that when we yawn, we're not just taking in oxygen or cooling our brains, as previous theories suggested. We're broadcasting, sending out a signal that can influence the neural patterns of others around us." Marcus's jaw dropped. "Are you saying that yawning is some kind of Mind control. Elena winced at the term. Not exactly. More like mind influence. Think about it, Marcus. Why is yawning contagious? Why do we feel compelled to yawn when we see others do it? What if it's not just a social mimicry response, but an actual neural synchronization? As the two scientists delved deeper into their groundbreaking discovery, neither of them noticed the sleek, invisible probe hovering outside their laboratory window, recording every word and transmitting it across the stars. In the following days, Elena and Marcus worked tirelessly to document and understand their discovery. They recruited volunteers for controlled experiments, carefully measuring the effects of yawning on neural activity and behavior. What they found both thrilled and terrified them. Not only could yawns influence the likelihood of others yawning, but they also seemed to create a temporary state of heightened suggestibility in those affected. Subjects exposed to a yawn broadcast became more open to suggestions and showed increased empathy and cooperation with the yawner. It's like a momentary mind meld, Elena mused as they reviewed their latest data. For a few seconds after a yawn, there's a window where people are more connected, more in sync with each other. Marcus nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. The implications for psychology, sociology, even politics are enormous. Imagine if you could make an entire audience more receptive to your ideas with a simple yawn. Elena shuddered. That's what worries me, Marcus. In the wrong hands, this knowledge could be dangerous. We need to be incredibly careful about how we proceed. Little did they know, their caution was already too late. News of their discovery had begun to spread through classified channels. Intelligence agencies around the world scrambled to verify the information and assess its potential as a weapon or tool for mass manipulation. In a top-secret facility deep beneath the Pentagon, General Harriet Stanton paced back and forth, her face a mask of concern as she addressed a room full of the nation's top military and scientific minds. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice sharp and authoritative. What I'm about to tell you does not leave this room. We have credible intelligence that suggests a breakthrough in neuroscience that could change the face of warfare and international relations forever. She nodded to her aide, who dimmed the lights and started a presentation. Images of brain scans and charts filled the screen behind her. Dr. Elena Reeves and Dr. Marcus Chen, two neurologists at Westfield University, have discovered that the human yawn is far more than a simple reflex. It is, in fact, a powerful tool for neural influence and potentially even mind control. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room. General Stanton held up a hand for silence. I know how it sounds, but the data is clear. When a person yawns, they emit a specific pattern of neural activity that can influence the brains of those around them. This influence creates a brief window of heightened suggestibility and empathy. She paused, letting the implications sink in. In other words, we may have stumbled upon the most powerful non-invasive mind control technique in human history. The room erupted in a flurry of questions and exclamations. General Stanton waited for the noise to die down before continuing. Our top priority now is to secure this knowledge and develop it before our adversaries can. We need to understand the full potential of this yawn weapon, both for offensive use and as a defense against enemy deployment. As the meeting continued, strategies were proposed and task forces assembled. The race to harness the power of the yawn had begun. Unaware of the geopolitical storm brewing around their discovery, Elena and Marcus continued their research. They had decided to publish their findings in a respected scientific journal, believing that open discourse and peer review were essential for responsible development of their ideas. As Elena put the finishing touches on their paper, she couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The magnitude of what they had discovered weighed heavily on her. Marcus, she said, looking up from her computer, are we doing the right thing? Publishing this. Marcus paused in his own work, considering her question carefully. I think we have to, Elena. Scientific progress depends on sharing knowledge. If we keep this to ourselves, who knows what might happen? At least this way, It's out in the open where it can be studied and discussed ethically. Elena nodded slowly. You're right. I just can't help feeling like we're opening Pandora's box. As they prepared to submit their paper, neither Elena nor Marcus could have imagined the true scope of the forces they had set in motion. Their discovery was about to catapult humanity into a new era of interstellar politics and conflict. In the depths of space, the Galactic Confederation was in chaos. The news of humanity's Yawn weapon had spread like wildfire, causing panic among many alien civilizations. Some called for immediate action to neutralize the threat, while others advocated for diplomatic approaches. Zixtal, the observer who had first reported the discovery, found himself at the center of a political maelstrom. As he prepared to give testimony before the High Council, he struggled to maintain his composure. Esteemed Council, he began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber, I stand by my initial report. The humans have indeed unlocked a powerful form of neural manipulation. However, new intelligence suggests that they may not fully understand or control this ability. The High Councilor's word pulsed with interest. Explain, Observer Zixtal. It appears that the scientists who made this discovery intend to publish their findings openly. They do not seem to view it as a weapon, but rather as a natural phenomenon to be studied. A ripple of surprise passed through the assembled aliens. The concept of sharing such powerful knowledge freely was foreign to many of their cultures. This presents both a danger and an opportunity, Zixtal continued. If this knowledge spreads unchecked among humans, it could lead to chaos. However, their openness also gives us a chance to intervene, to guide the development of this ability in a way that does not threaten galactic stability. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Finally, the High Councilor spoke. We have reached a decision. We will send a delegation to Earth to make first contact with humanity and address this situation directly. Observer Zixtal, you will lead this mission. Your familiarity with human culture will be invaluable. Zixtal's eye stalks quivered with a mix of fear and excitement. I am honored, High Councilor. When do we depart? Immediately, came the reply. The fate of the galaxy may depend on the outcome of this mission. As the Galactic Confederation prepared for its historic journey to Earth, humanity remained blissfully unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding around them. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future of both species and perhaps the entire galaxy. Elena Reeves yawned as she hit the submit button, sending their paper off for peer review. Little did she know that simple, involuntary action had just been observed by a dozen different intelligence agencies and one very nervous alien observer. The Yawn discovery was about to change everything. First contact and misunderstanding. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the White House lawn as President Amelia Rodriguez paced in the Oval Office. Her advisors watched nervously, unsure how to comfort the usually unflappable leader. Let me get this straight, Rodriguez said, pinching the bridge of her nose. Not only have we discovered that yawning is some kind of mind control superpower, but now we're about to have our first alien visitors. And these two things are connected. General Stanton nodded grimly. Yes, Madam President. Our deep space monitoring stations picked up the alien vessel 3 days ago. They're on a direct course for Earth and have been broadcasting a message in multiple human languages requesting a meeting with our leaders. Rodriguez sank into her chair, the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. And we're sure this is about the Yawn research. As sure as we can be, replied Dr. Elias Grant, the President's chief scientific advisor. The timing is too perfect to be a coincidence. Somehow, they know about Dr. Reeves and Dr. Chen's discovery. The President's eyes narrowed. Have we secured the scientists? General Stanton nodded. Yes, ma'am. They're in protective custody, though they're not exactly happy about it. Dr. Reeves, in particular, is quite vocal in her objections. A ghost of a smile flickered across Rodriguez's face. I can imagine. Well, let's hope their discovery doesn't turn this first contact into humanity's last stand. When are our visitors due to arrive? As if on cue, A bright flash illuminated the sky outside the Oval Office windows. A sleek, silvery craft, unlike anything ever seen on Earth, descended gracefully onto the south lawn. "I believe that answers your question, Madam President," Dr. Grant said, his voice barely above a whisper. President Rodriguez straightened her jacket and took a deep breath. "Well then, ladies and gentlemen, let's go make history." As the world watched in awe, live streams and news broadcasts showing the alien ship's arrival, a small delegation made its way onto the White House grounds. Leading the group was Zixtal, his alien form concealed within a shimmering holographic field that gave him the appearance of a tall, distinguished human diplomat. President Rodriguez stepped forward, her hand extended in greeting. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our world." Zixtal's holographic face smiled, but his real eyes, hidden beneath the disguise, darted nervously around the assembled humans. "Greetings, President Rodriguez. I am Zixtal, representative of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and with great urgency." As the two leaders began to exchange pleasantries, a young Secret Service agent at the edge of the gathering felt an irresistible urge building. He tried to fight it, knowing the importance of maintaining composure during this historic moment, but it was no use. He yawned. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Every human within a 10-foot radius suddenly felt an overwhelming wave of drowsiness, several of them yawning in response. But the reaction among the aliens was far more severe. Zixtal's holographic disguise flickered and failed as he recoiled in terror. His true form, a mass of writhing tentacles and pulsing organs, revealed to the shocked onlookers. The other alien delegates let out high-pitched shrieks of alarm, some of them activating personal force fields or brandishing strange devices that hummed with unknown energies. "Weapon detected," one of the aliens screeched in perfect, if panicked, English. "Neural assault in progress." Chaos erupted on the South Lawn. Secret Service agents, reacting to the aliens' apparent hostile moves, drew their weapons. The alien delegates, seeing this as confirmation of an attack, responded in kind. Within seconds, the historic first contact had devolved into an armed standoff. President Rodriguez, her diplomatic training kicking in, raised her hands in a placating gesture. "Please, everyone calm down. This is all a misunderstanding." But her words were drowned out by the commotion. General Stanton, her military instincts taking over, moved to shield the president. "Get her to safety." She barked at nearby agents. As they began to hustle Rodriguez away, she locked eyes with Zixtal, who had managed to reactivate his holographic disguise. In that moment, a flash of mutual understanding passed between them. Both leaders realized the magnitude of the disaster unfolding and the urgent need to regain control. Zixtal raised all four of his concealed arms, his holographic form mimicking the gesture. "Stand down," he commanded his delegation, his voice carrying an authority that cut through the chaos. "This is not an attack. It is the very phenomenon we came here to discuss." Slowly, tensions began to ease. Weapons were lowered, though not holstered on both sides. President Rodriguez shrugged off her protective detail and stepped forward once more. "Perhaps," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, "we should continue this discussion inside, away from any further surprises." Zixtal nodded gratefully. "A wise suggestion, Madam President. It seems we have much to explain to each other." As the two delegations made their way into the White House, the young Secret Service agent who had inadvertently triggered the incident found himself at the center of a lot of unwanted attention. His face burned with embarrassment as he was quietly but firmly escorted away for debriefing. Inside the White House Situation Room, an unprecedented meeting was taking place. President Rodriguez sat at one end of the long table, flanked by General Stanton and Dr. Grant. Zixtal and his alien delegates occupied the other end, their holographic disguises now deactivated in the interest of transparency. "So," Rodriguez began, her tone carefully neutral, "you've been watching us. For how long?" Zixtal's eye stalks twitched nervously. The Galactic Confederation has been observing Earth for several of your centuries. We have strict protocols about non-interference with developing civilizations. General Stanton leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. And what changed? Why reveal yourselves now? The Yawn weapon, one of the other aliens blurted out, earning a reproachful look from Zixtal. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Weapon? I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. The yawning phenomenon Dr. Reeves and Dr. Chen discovered is a natural human biological function. We don't fully understand its implications yet, but it's certainly not a weapon. Zixtal's color shifted to a deeper shade of blue, the alien equivalent of a blush. Perhaps weapon is too strong a term, but surely you must realize the potential for this neural influence technique. In the wrong hands, it could be used to manipulate entire populations. Dr. Grant cleared his throat. If I may, the research is still in its early stages. We don't even know if the effect scales beyond small groups, or if it can be consciously controlled. But it could be, Zixtal insisted. Your species has a history of turning scientific discoveries into tools of war. We couldn't take the risk of this power being weaponized. President Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, considering the alien's words. So you came here to, what? Confiscate our yawns. A ripple of nervous laughter passed through the human side of the table. The aliens, however, remained deadly serious. We came, Zixtal said slowly, to offer a choice. Join the Galactic Confederation. Share this discovery with us, so it can be properly studied and regulated, or... He trailed off, but the implication was clear. General Stanton's hand inched towards her sidearm. Or what? You'll destroy us. Over yawning. The tension in the room ratcheted up several notches. President Rodriguez held up a hand, silencing her general. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Zixtal, surely you must realize how this sounds from our perspective. You arrive unannounced, cause panic with talk of weapons we didn't even know we had, and then offer an ultimatum. This is not how diplomatic relations are established. Zixtal's tentacles writhed in agitation. We meant no offense, Madam President. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our approach. Our own history has taught us to be wary of such potent discoveries. But you are right, we have handled this poorly. Rodriguez nodded, sensing an opportunity. Then let's start over. Not as potential adversaries, but as two civilizations with much to learn from each other. We'll share our research on the yawning phenomenon, and in return, you share some of your scientific knowledge with us. Together, we can explore the implications of this discovery and ensure it's used for the benefit of all. The alien delegates conferred among themselves in a series of clicks and whistles. Finally, Zixtal turned back to the president. Your proposal has merit, but we will need assurances that this power will not be weaponized. And we'll need assurances that our sovereignty will be respected, Rodriguez countered. We're not ready to join your confederation, but we are open to peaceful cooperation and cultural exchange. As the negotiations continued late into the night, news of the alien visitation spread across the globe. Social media exploded with memes about yawning aliens, while governments worldwide scrambled to understand the new geopolitical reality. In a secure facility miles away, Alina Reeves and Marcus Chen watched the events unfold on a small television in their quarters. Alina turned to her colleague, her eyes wide with disbelief. Marcus, she said slowly, I think our research just changed the course of human history. Marcus nodded, still staring at the screen. And to think, it all started with a yawn. As dawn broke over Washington, D.C., humanity stood on the brink of a new era. The misunderstandings of first contact had been narrowly averted, but the real challenges and opportunities of this new interstellar relationship were just beginning. And somewhere in the White House, a young Secret Service agent was seriously reconsidering his career choices. The Yawn arms race. In the months following the first contact event, Earth became a hotbed of scientific and political activity. The revelation of alien life and the potential power of yawning had sent shockwaves through every level of society. As governments and corporations raced to understand and control this newfound ability, the world teetered on the brink of a new kind of arms race. Dr. Elena Reeves stared out the window of her new laboratory, a state-of-the-art facility nestled in the Rocky Mountains. The view was breathtaking, but she hardly noticed it anymore. Her mind was consumed by the implications of her work and the weight of responsibility that came with it. "Elena," Marcus called from across the lab, his voice tinged with excitement. "I think we've had a breakthrough." She turned, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, what have you found?" Marcus gestured to a complex array of sensors and monitors. "We've managed to isolate the specific brainwave pattern that triggers the yawn response. More importantly, we think we can amplify it." Elena's eyes widened as she examined the data. "This is incredible. With this, we could potentially trigger a mass yawning response in a large group of people. The applications for crowd control alone are—" She trailed off, her excitement fading as she considered the darker implications. Marcus nodded, understanding her concern. "I know," he said softly. "It's a double-edged sword. But think of the potential benefits too. Imagine being able to calm a riot without violence, or create instant empathy in peace negotiations." Elena sighed, running a hand through her hair. "You're right, of course. It's just, sometimes I wish we could put this genie back in the bottle." Before Marcus could respond, the lab's communication screen lit up. The stern face of General Stanton filled the display. "Dr. Reeves, Dr. Chen," she barked, not bothering with pleasantries. "We have a situation. How soon can you be in Washington?" Halfway across the world, in a secret underground facility beneath the Gobi Desert, a team of Chinese scientists huddled around their own array of equipment. Dr. Lai Wei, the project lead, allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction as he reviewed the latest test results. "Report," came a gruff voice from the shadows. General Zhang stepped into the dim light, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Dr. Lai bowed slightly. "General, we have successfully reverse-engineered the American yawn amplification technology. Our version is crude, but effective. We estimate that within 6 months, we can have a working prototype capable of influencing crowds of up to 10,000 people simultaneously." General Zhang nodded, his face impassive. "Excellent. And what of the countermeasures?" "We're making progress," Dr. Lai replied, his confidence wavering slightly. "We've developed a neural dampening field that can block the effects of a yawn broadcast, but the power requirements are significant. It's not yet practical for widespread use." The general's eyes narrowed. "Redouble your efforts, Dr. Lai. The Americans and their alien friends are no doubt working on similar technology. China must not fall behind in this new arms race." As Earth's superpowers jockeyed for position in the yawn arms race, tensions were also rising among the stars. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation, heated debates raged over how to handle the rapidly evolving situation on Earth. Zixtel stood before the High Council, his tentacles quivering with a mix of fear and determination. "Esteemed counselors, I urge you to reconsider. The humans have shown remarkable restraint and a willingness to cooperate. Cutting them off now could push them towards weaponizing the yawn technology out of fear and mistrust." The High Counselor's energy form pulsed with skepticism. "Observer Zixtal, your fondness for the humans is clouding your judgment. Reports indicate that multiple Earth factions are already attempting to weaponize this neural influence ability. The potential threat to galactic stability is too great to ignore. But that's precisely why we must stay engaged," Zixtal insisted. "By working with them, guiding them, we can ensure this power is used responsibly. Isolation will only breed fear and accelerate the arms race." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some counselors nodded in agreement, while others chittered in dissent. The High Counselor's form shimmered as it considered Zixtal's words. "Your argument has merit," the High Counselor conceded. However, we cannot risk full disclosure of our technology to a species so young and volatile. A compromise, perhaps. We will continue limited engagement, but with stricter oversight. And we must prepare contingencies, in case the humans prove unable to handle this power responsibly. Zixtel felt a chill run through his body. He knew all too well what kind of contingencies the Confederation might be considering. As he left the council chamber, he made a silent vow to do everything in his power to ensure it never came to that. Back on Earth, in a nondescript office building in downtown Washington, D.C., a clandestine meeting was taking place. Representatives from various global powers sat around a large table, their faces a mix of determination and barely concealed mistrust. "Ladies and gentlemen," began the American representative, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, "we're here because, despite our differences, we all recognize the gravity of the situation. The Yawn technology has the potential to upset the global balance of power in unprecedented ways." The Russian delegate leaned forward, his voice gruff. "Let us not pretend, Ms. Johnson. We all know that your country has taken the lead in this arms race. Why should we believe that this coalition you propose is anything but an attempt to maintain your advantage?" Murmurs of agreement echoed around the table. The Chinese representative remained silent, but his eyes gleamed with interest. Ms. Johnson held up a hand for silence. "I understand your skepticism, but consider this. If we don't find a way to cooperate, to establish rules and limits on this technology, we risk not only conflict among ourselves, but potentially with the entire Galactic Confederation." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We're not just talking about national security anymore. We're talking about the security of our entire species." The mood in the room shifted, the weight of her words settling over the assembled diplomats. The British representative, a distinguished-looking man with salt and pepper hair, cleared his throat. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. Ms. Johnson allowed herself a small smile. "A global task force, pooling our best scientists, our resources, to develop this technology together. Shared advancements, shared protections. It's the only way to ensure no single nation gains too much of an advantage." The room erupted in a flurry of whispered conversations and hurried consultations. As the diplomats debated, none of them noticed the small insect-like drone hovering in the corner of the room, its tiny cameras recording every word and gesture. Miles away, in a darkened room filled with monitors, a figure watched the proceedings with growing interest. The leader of a shadowy international organization known only as the Awakened leaned back in their chair, a slow smile spreading across their face. "Oh, this is perfect," they murmured to themselves. "Let the governments of the world squabble over their weapons and treaties. They have no idea of the true potential of this gift." The figure tapped a series of commands into a nearby console. Across the globe, sleeper agents received their new orders. The Awakened had no interest in weapons or power plays. They saw the Yawn technology for what it truly was: a key to unlocking humanity's dormant potential, a way to elevate human consciousness to new heights. As the Yawn arms race accelerated, drawing in nations, corporations, and shadowy organizations alike, the stakes continued to rise. Each faction saw the technology through the lens of their own ambitions and fears, never fully grasping the true nature of the power they sought to control. In her lab in the Rocky Mountains, Alina Reeves worked tirelessly, driven by a mix of scientific curiosity and growing dread. She knew that her discovery was being twisted and weaponized in ways she had never intended. But she also believed that through careful research and ethical application, the Yawn phenomenon could be a force for good. Late one night, as she pored over the latest data, Alina felt a familiar urge building. She tried to stifle it, but it was no use. She yawned. To her shock, every piece of electronic equipment in the lab suddenly came to life, screens flickering with complex patterns of neural activity. As the yawn subsided, the devices returned to normal, leaving Elena staring in wide-eyed disbelief. "Marcus," she called out, her voice shaking. I think I think I just did something impossible. As Elena and Marcus rushed to document and understand this new development, they were unaware that their breakthrough had just been observed and recorded by multiple interested parties. The Yawn arms race was about to enter a new, even more dangerous phase. Across the stars, Zixtal received an urgent message from his Earth observation team. As he absorbed the implications of Elena's accidental discovery, he felt a mix of awe and terror. The humans were evolving faster than anyone had anticipated, unlocking abilities that even the Galactic Confederation didn't fully understand. By the cosmic core, Zixtal whispered to himself, "What have we unleashed?" The Yawn arms race was no longer just about weapons or influence. It had become a race to unlock the very secrets of consciousness itself, and no one, human or alien, could predict where it might lead. Invasion and resistance. The skies over major cities worldwide erupted in chaos as sleek alien craft descended through the atmosphere. Their arrival was heralded not by the boom of explosions or the whine of energy weapons, but by an eerie silence that seemed to ripple outward, dampening all sound in its wake. In the White House Situation Room, President Rodriguez stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. "How did we not see this coming?" she demanded, her voice tight with anger and fear. General Stanton shook her head grimly. "They must have some kind of stealth technology beyond our ability to detect, Madam President. We're blind and deaf out there." As if to punctuate the general's words, the room's screens flickered and went dark. Emergency lights kicked on, bathing everyone in an ominous red glow. "EMP?" Rodriguez asked, already knowing the answer. Stanton nodded. "Looks like it. We're cut off from most of our forces. God knows what's happening out there." The president's jaw set in determination. "Get me to the secure bunker. And someone find Dr. Reeves and Dr. Chen. If we're going to have a chance in hell of fighting this, we need them." Across the globe, similar scenes played out in government offices and military installations. The alien invasion force, a radical faction of the Galactic Confederation, led by hardliners, who saw humanity as too great a threat to be allowed to develop further, moved with ruthless efficiency. Their strategy was clear: neutralize Earth's defensive capabilities, isolate its leaders, and prepare for a mass deployment of their own neural influence technology, a weaponized version of the Yawn effect that could subdue entire populations without firing a shot. But they had underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance and the true potential of the power they sought to suppress. In her lab in the Rocky Mountains, Elena Reeves worked feverishly, surrounded by the soft glow of battery-powered equipment. Marcus paced nearby, dividing his attention between multiple screens showing fragmented news reports from around the world. "It's a full-scale invasion," he said, his voice hollow with shock. "They're hitting every major city simultaneously. But they're not. They're not killing anyone. It's like they're trying to herd people." Elena barely looked up from her work. "They want to use us, not destroy us. The Yawn effect. They must have developed it into some kind of mass control device." She straightened up, a glimmer of triumph in her eyes. "But so have we." Marcus turned to her, hope dawning on his face. "You've done it. You've found a way to amplify the effect." Elena nodded, allowing herself a small smile despite the dire circumstances. "Not just amplify. Direct. Control. I think I can teach people to use it consciously." Before Marcus could respond, the lab's emergency phone line crackled to life. General Stanton's voice, tense but controlled, filled the room. "Dr. Reeves, Dr. Chen, I hope to God you can hear this. We need you in Washington. Now, whatever you've been working on, it's our only shot at fighting back." Elena and Marcus exchanged a look of determination. "We're on our way," Elena replied. "And General, we might just have the weapon we need." As Elena and Marcus were rushed to a secret government facility, the alien invasion continued to unfold. In cities around the world, people found themselves herded into large open areas, stadiums, parks, town squares. Those who resisted encountered not violence, but an overwhelming wave of neural influence that left them docile and compliant. But pockets of resistance began to emerge. In some places, people found they could resist the alien influence through sheer force of will. In others, unexpected allies appeared. In Central Park, New York, as thousands of confused and terrified citizens were corralled by hovering alien drones, a figure stepped forward from the crowd. The leader of the awakened, known to their followers simply as the Guide, raised their hands. "Brothers and sisters," the Guide called out, their voice carrying an unnatural resonance. "The moment we have prepared for is here. The gift we have cultivated in secret will now be our salvation. Focus your minds, feel the connection between us, and push back." As one, the gathered members of the awakened took a deep breath and released it in a collective yawn that rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. The alien drones faltered, their neural dampening fields fluctuating wildly. Inspired by this display of defiance, others in the crowd began to focus their own thoughts, tapping into a power they didn't fully understand, but instinctively knew how to use. The air seemed to vibrate with unseen energy as humans pushed back against their would-be conquerors. Similar scenes played out in cities across the globe. The alien invaders, who had expected to encounter a primitive species barely able to comprehend their technology, found themselves facing a humanity awakening to its true potential. In the skies above, the alien commander, Vexcor, watched in growing alarm as reports flooded in from his ground forces. The humans were resisting, and in ways that defied all their projections. "Impossible," Vexcor hissed, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "They cannot have mastered the neural arts so quickly. Increase the power of the suppression fields. We must regain control." But even as he gave the order, Vexcor felt a creeping doubt. Had they miscalculated? Had their own observations and interventions somehow accelerated humanity's development beyond their worst-case scenarios? As the battle for Earth's future raged on multiple fronts, Alina and Marcus arrived at a hastily assembled command center deep beneath the Pentagon. They were immediately ushered into a room where President Rodriguez, General Stanton, and a team of top scientists and military strategists awaited them. "Dr. Reeves, Dr. Chen," the president greeted them, her face etched with worry, but her voice steady. "I'm told you might have a way to turn this invasion around. We're all ears." Elena took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of expectation in the room. "Madam President, what we're about to propose is going to sound, well, insane. But given the circumstances, I think we're beyond conventional thinking." She quickly outlined her findings, how the Yawn effect could be consciously controlled and amplified, potentially allowing humans to rival or even surpass the aliens' neural influence abilities. "You're telling me we can fight mind control with mind control?" General Stanton asked, skepticism evident in her tone. Marcus stepped forward. "It's more than that, General. We believe we can create a kind of neural network, a way for humans to link their consciousness, amplifying our natural abilities and allowing us to coordinate on a level the aliens won't be expecting." The room erupted in a flurry of questions and exclamations. President Rodriguez held up a hand for silence, her gaze fixed on Alina and Marcus. "How quickly can we implement this? And what are the risks?" Elena met the president's eyes, her expression grave. "We can begin immediately. As for the risks, we'll be pushing the boundaries of human consciousness. The physical and psychological effects are unknown, but right now, I believe it's our only chance." Rodriguez nodded slowly, the weight of the decision visible in every line of her face. "Do it. Whatever you need, you'll have. Save our world, doctors." As Elena and Marcus set to work, coordinating with scientists and technicians to broadcast their neural amplification technique worldwide, the tide of the invasion began to turn. In London, a group of teenagers who had been experimenting with yawn-induced trances found they could project illusions, confusing the alien patrols and allowing resistance fighters to move undetected. In Rio de Janeiro, a renowned meditation guru, led thousands in a mass consciousness-raising exercise that created a psychic barrier around the city, shorting out alien technology and forcing their ships to retreat. And in a small town in Japan, an elderly woman discovered she could communicate with and influence the local wildlife, mobilizing a bizarre but effective army of animals to harass and distract the invaders. As reports of these incidents poured in, Vexcor's invasion force found itself increasingly on the defensive. What had begun as a seemingly easy subjugation of a primitive species had turned into a nightmare of guerrilla warfare, fought on a psychic plane they barely understood. Regroup, Vexcor commanded, his earlier confidence shattered. Prepare for orbital bombardment. If we cannot control these humans, we must. His orders were cut short as a powerful psychic wave washed over the alien fleet. On the ground below, Alina Reeves stood at the center of a hastily constructed amplification array, surrounded by a team of volunteers linked in a neural network that spanned the globe. "Can you hear me?" Alina's voice echoed not just through the air, but through the minds of every human on the planet. "This is not a weapon. This is not a trick. This is who we are. Who we've always been beneath the surface. United. Connected. Part of something greater than ourselves." As Alina spoke, humans everywhere felt a surge of energy, of potential. The Yawn effect, once a curiosity and then a weapon, revealed itself as a key to unlocking humanity's latent psychic abilities. Vexcor and his invasion force found themselves overwhelmed, their neural defenses crumbling before the united will of humanity. Ships fell from the sky, disabled not by weapons, but by the focused thoughts of millions. In the command center, President Rodriguez watched in awe as tactical displays showed the alien fleet retreating, driven back by a power they couldn't hope to match. "My God," she whispered, "we did it. We actually did it." But even as victory seemed within grasp, Alina felt a tremor of unease. The power they had unleashed was beyond anything she had imagined. As the neural network pulsed with the combined consciousness of humanity, she caught glimpses of something else, something vast and ancient, stirring in the depths of the collective human mind. "What have we awakened?" she wondered, her voice lost in the psychic maelstrom engulfing the planet. The invasion had been repelled, but humanity's journey was far from over. In unlocking their true potential, they had opened a door to a universe far stranger and more wondrous than they had ever imagined. And somewhere in the depths of space, other forces took notice of the newest players on the cosmic stage. The age of human yawns had only just begun. Resolution and understanding. In the days following the repulsion of the alien invasion, Earth found itself in a state of transformation unlike anything in human history. The awakening of humanity's latent psychic abilities, triggered by the weaponization and subsequent evolution of the Yawn effect, had changed everything. Cities around the world buzzed with a new kind of energy as people explored their newfound powers. In parks and town squares, impromptu classes sprang up, with those who had quickly mastered their abilities teaching others. The air seemed to shimmer with invisible connections as humans tapped into the global neural network that now linked them all. But with this great awakening came great challenges. In her lab, now expanded and bustling with activity, Alina Reeves massaged her temples, trying to stave off a headache. The constant background hum of millions of minds was taking some getting used to. "Alina," Marcus called from across the room, his voice tinged with concern. "You need to see this." She made her way over to his workstation, where a holographic display showed a map of global psychic activity. Bright spots of light represented concentrations of awakened individuals, with lines of energy connecting them in a vast, pulsing web. "What am I looking at?" Alina asked, though a part of her already knew. Marcus pointed to several areas where the lights seemed to be growing brighter, the connections more intense. "It's evolving. The network, I mean. In some places, it's starting to take on a life of its own." Alina nodded slowly, a mix of awe and apprehension washing over her. It's not just a tool anymore, is it? We've created something alive." Before they could discuss further, a ripple of excitement passed through the lab. Screens lit up with breaking news. The Galactic Confederation had sent a new delegation to Earth, requesting an urgent meeting with world leaders. President Rodriguez stood on a specially constructed stage in front of the United Nations building in New York, flanked by representatives from major world powers. Before them, holographic projectors hummed to life, displaying the alien delegation led by a familiar face, or rather, a familiar mass of tentacles and eye stalks. "Zixtal," Rodriguez greeted the alien diplomat, her voice carrying both warmth and a hint of steel. "I must say, this is a surprise. We thought perhaps your confederation had written us off as too dangerous to associate with." Zixtal's form shimmered slightly, a sign of emotional distress in his species. "President Rodriguez, esteemed leaders of Earth, I owe you a profound apology. The invasion you faced was not sanctioned by the Confederation as a whole. It was the act of a radical faction, one that has since been dealt with." Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd, both physical and psychic. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "I see. And now?" Zixtal's eye stalks quivered with what might have been excitement or nervousness. "Now we stand before you not as mentors or overseers, but as equals, possibly as students." A hush fell over the gathering as Zixtal continued. "What your species has achieved in such a short time is unprecedented. The awakening of your collective consciousness, your mastery of neural energies, you've accomplished in months what took other species millennia. We wish to learn from you." The alien's words sent a shockwave through the human leaders. For a moment, no one spoke, the weight of this reversal of roles sinking in. Finally, President Rodriguez stepped forward, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Well, Zixtal, I believe we have much to discuss. But first, let me extend an invitation, not just to you, but to all members of the Galactic Confederation. Come, sit with us. Let us yawn together and see what we might learn from each other." As negotiations between Earth and the Galactic Confederation began in earnest, the process of integrating humanity's new abilities into everyday life continued. Governments worldwide grappled with the implications of a populace suddenly capable of telepathy and other psychic feats. In a classroom in suburban America, a teacher stood before a group of children, all wearing lightweight neural dampeners to help them focus. "Now, class," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "remember what we practiced. Before you project a thought, ask yourself, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Our words have always had power, but now, quite literally, so do our thoughts." Across the globe, similar scenes played out as humanity learned to navigate its new reality. There were challenges, of course. Privacy laws had to be completely rewritten. New forms of crime emerged, necessitating the formation of psychic police units. But for every problem, the collective human consciousness seemed to generate multiple solutions. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, other forces stirred. The psychic awakening of humanity had sent ripples through the cosmos, attracting the attention of ancient and powerful entities long thought to be mere legend. On a planet of crystalline structures orbiting a dying star, a being of pure energy that had slumbered for eons opened its awareness. It sensed the new players on the galactic stage and felt something it hadn't experienced in millennia: curiosity. In the spaces between stars, a collective intelligence composed of trillions of microscopic organisms altered its course, drawn by the siren song of Earth's burgeoning psychic network. And in dimensions beyond human comprehension, eldritch horrors and benevolent overminds alike turned their attention to the tiny blue planet that had suddenly become the most interesting thing in the universe. Back on Earth, blissfully unaware of the cosmic forces they had attracted, Belina and Marcus stood on the balcony of their new research center, gazing up at the star-filled sky. "Do you ever wonder," Marcus mused, "what else is out there? Now that we can look with more than just our eyes." Elena nodded, a shiver running down her spine that had nothing to do with the cool night air. All the time, it's beautiful, but sometimes it's terrifying too. We opened a door, Marcus, and I don't think we can close it. As if in response to her words, a shooting star blazed across the heavens. But to their awakened senses, it was more than just light and fire. They felt a presence, a vast and alien intelligence, rushing against the edges of human consciousness. For a moment, Alina and Marcus stood frozen, their minds linked as they tried to comprehend what they had just experienced. Then, slowly, they turned to each other, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Did you feel that?" Marcus whispered. Alina nodded, her voice barely audible. "It's not over, is it? This is just the beginning." As the implications of their shared experience sank in, they both felt an irresistible urge building. Without thinking, they yawned in unison. The yawn rippled out from them, carried on waves of psychic energy. It spread across the city, the country, the world. A gentle reminder of the humble origin of humanity's great awakening. And as it traveled, it seemed to carry a message, a call to all of humankind. Wake up. Look up. The universe is vaster and stranger than we ever imagined. And we are no longer alone. In living rooms and boardrooms, in space stations and submarines, humans paused as they felt the yawn pass through them. For a moment, the entire species was united in a single shared experience, a collective realization of the journey that lay ahead. The age of cosmic isolation was over. Humanity, armed with nothing more than the power of a yawn, had taken its first true steps into a larger universe. The challenges ahead were immense, the dangers real, but so too were the possibilities. As the yawn faded, leaving behind a sense of anticipation and wonder, a new chapter in human history began. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now seemed to beckon. And humanity, united in ways they had never been before, prepared to answer that call. The story of the human yawn, the most unlikely weapon, the key to unlocking human potential, the bridge between species, had only just begun. And the universe, in all its infinite mystery, waited to see what they would do next. In labs and meditation centers around the world, people settled in for another day of exploration and discovery. They closed their eyes, took deep breaths, and prepared to delve into the depths of consciousness and the frontiers of space. And somewhere, someone yawned, setting it all in motion once again. The end, or perhaps the beginning.